Rejected by 20 women, I was shocked when a poor miner changed my life with a simple yes. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. The pain hit like a wrecking ball. I stood there, heart racing, fists clenched tight. Each rejection played in my mind like a haunting soundtrack, echoing the same harsh words, "You're not my type." The silence that followed was suffocating. I thought I'd never find someone who truly saw me. I was staring at my phone, frustration boiling, when I met him. Lucas. A miner, rough around the edges, with dirt under his nails and a smile that could light up the darkest tunnels. I had taken a chance on a local bar, drowning my sorrows in cheap whiskey. His laughter cut through the haze, vibrant and genuine. I hadn't realized that something so simple could send shivers down my spine. I was captivated in ways I didn't know were possible. The week before, I had been with my family, a celebration that felt empty. My parents pressed me about my love life, their voices filled with concern. "When are you going to settle down?" they asked. My sister's knowing glance stung. I felt trapped in a cycle of expectations, suffocated by the pressure to find love, to bring home Mr. Perfect. But perfection wasn't what I craved. I wanted connection, something real. Yet it felt like an impossible dream. That night, surrounded by laughter and music, Lucas had brushed against me. A simple collision, but the world melted away. His eyes sparkled with curiosity, and I felt a warmth bloom in my chest. "Don't let them get to you," he said, voice low and rough like gravel. "Everyone deserves a chance." Little did I know that those words would echo in my mind, twisting and turning until they unraveled everything I knew about myself. Days passed, his presence lingering like a whisper. I was drawn back to the bar, hoping for another glimpse. I never imagined a miner could set off such tremors in my heart. Was I foolish? Or was this what love felt like, the rawness, the uncertainty? But doubt crept in as others eyed him with judgment. "He's just a miner," I overheard. Their sentiments dripped with disdain. "What can he offer?" But Lucas was more than a miner. He had stories living in the labyrinth of his mind. The calloused hands were a testament to the life he worked hard for. And the way he looked at me like I was kite soaring through stormy skies made me feel alive. My heartbeat raced as I wondered, could there be more than fleeting moments? Could it be real? Then came the momentous simple yes. I found the courage to walk up to him, and my trembling hands broke the silence. But before I could speak, something shifted in the room. Shadows danced at the edges. An ominous presence loomed, and my breath caught. I could feel the eyes of the crowd on us, sensing their judgments ready to strike. Would I find courage in the face of their whispers? Would Lucas see the fear in my eyes or the hope that flickered within? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash the like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The room buzzed with a tension that was almost tangible, like the static before a summer storm. I felt every breath, every heartbeat as I stood frozen, facing Lucas. The whispers of the crowd wrapped around me like chains, wary eyes darting between him and me, gauging the weight of our connection. Could I stand against the tide of their judgment? "Hey," Lucas said with a soft smile that almost broke through my anxiety. "You all right?" His voice was warm, a stark contrast to the cold winds of doubt stirring within me. I opened my mouth to reply, but the words tangled on my tongue. Instead, I nodded, holding onto his gaze like a lifeline. My heart raced as I stepped closer, feeling the proximity of his warmth somehow shielding me from the stares of others. I could see the curiosity burning in his eyes, that mix of intrigue and concern that made me feel seen. "Can I buy you a drink?" I asked, suddenly bold in the face of vulnerability. He chuckled lightly, the sound like music, and replied, "ID like that." The relief washed over me as he motioned to the bartender, placing an order that was simple yet genuine, mirroring who he was. In that moment, surrounded by the dim glow of bar lights and raucous laughter, my insecurities seemed to fade slightly, but just as quickly, they returned with the force of an oncoming tide. As we settled at a corner table, a shift in the air made my heart drop. An older man, clad in a suit that screamed disdain, approached us. "Is this your new game?" he sneered, his voice slicing through the laughter. "Pairing with the lowest common denominator?" His words dripped with contempt, and I felt my cheeks flush with betrayal. Lucas stiffened beside me, the laughter around us dulling into an uncomfortable silence. "Excuse me?" I responded before I could stop myself, my voice trembling but resolute, a defiant fire igniting in my chest. I wanted to shield Lucas from this ugliness, wanted to remind this man that worth isn't measured by a job title. The man chuckled dismissively. "What do you see in him?" "He's just a miner, sweetheart." The crowd seemed to hold its breath, awaiting my response, holding on to their preconceived prejudices. But Lucas' hand found mine under the table, grounding me. "He's more than just what you see," I said, surprise flooding my own heart with fierce loyalty. This man whom I barely knew had reignited something within me I thought was extinguished. He works hard. He's genuine. And he deserves respect just like anyone else. Lucas squeezed my hand gently, his raw sincerity igniting a flicker of bravery in my chest. "You don't know me," he added quietly, his voice steady, cutting through the tension. "But I'm proud of who I am. And that's something you might never understand." I couldn't believe I was fighting for him already. I could feel the whispers around us shifting. Some looked on in approval, while others remained unmoved, their minds cemented in their prejudices. But the older man scoffed, walking away with a dismissive shrug, and I felt a surge of both pride and terror. Silent tension filled the space. I had stood up for Lucas, and a small part of me felt triumphant, but the larger part felt exposed, vulnerable under the weight of uncertainty. What did this mean for us? I could only hope it wouldn't paint a target on our backs. Lucas turned to me, a flicker of admiration dancing in his eyes, and I could sense without words that the moment had bonded us in ways I couldn't fully grasp yet. "Thank you," he murmured, and it was in this simple kindness, devoid of expectation, that I found a small anchor amid the storm. We chatted as the evening crept on, the crowd slowly drifting back to its revelry, seemingly less captivated by our exchange. I found joy in our laughter, in the stories he shared about the mine's depths and the community that held each other together beneath harsh conditions. For a moment, the world outside faded. Perhaps this was connection, perhaps this was hope, but lurking in the back of my mind was the bone-deep worry that the encounter with that man was merely the beginning. For every act of courage, there could be consequences. I wanted to believe that this new chapter with Lucas could lead somewhere beautiful, yet I couldn't shake the feeling that shadows hung just beyond our happiness. As we left the bar, walking side by side into the cool night air, I felt suddenly aware of the night sky, unfurling above us, an expanse of stars, a backdrop to our budding connection. But in the moment of beauty, my heart sank as I caught a glimpse of my phone lighting up. A message from my mother: "We need to talk. We can't keep pretending everything is okay." The knot in my stomach tightened as the weight of the incoming confrontation loomed over me, stealing the warmth of the moment. I didn't just feel the physical distance between Lucas and me, it felt emotional too, the growing realization that choosing him might cost me more than I was prepared to pay. What would I do when faced with my family's expectations yet again? Every step I took felt heavier than the last. The conflict within me was far from resolved, and as Lucas paused to slide his fingers through mine, I bit my lip, grappling with anxiety and the uncertain path ahead. Would he still want me when the chaos of my life inevitably crept back in? Would I be able to choose him if it meant letting go of everything I thought I wanted? "Everything okay?" Lucas asked quietly, peering into my soul, and for the first time, my heart ached with a newfound clarity. As much as I wanted to say yes, the answer felt more complicated than a simple affirmation. I feared that the truth would shatter the fragile illusion we had built together in the span of a single night. The cliff I was perched upon felt precarious, and I wondered if I would take the leap. The chill of the night air set my nerves ablaze, and I could hardly breathe as we stood outside the bar. The weight of my mother's message pressed upon my chest like a vice, squeezing out the small joys I had found just moments before. I kept my eyes averted, struggling to maintain the smile I so desperately wanted to share with Lucas. I started, but the words fizzled out. Instead, I took a deep breath, willing myself to focus on the warmth of his hand in mine. The contrast felt surreal. Here was this bright, genuine connection, and lurking beneath it was the darkness of my reality. Lucas watched me closely, concern etching itself into the corners of his eyes. "You know you can tell me if something's bothering you. I can see it on your face." I wanted to explain the whirlwind brewing inside meth weight of family ties, the unrelenting expectations, the paralyzing fear that I might fail to meet them again. But the thought of burdening him with my problems felt wrong, especially after the moment we had just shared. "It's just less complicated," I managed to say, trying to brush my fears aside. He nodded slowly, still observing me with that piercing gaze. "We've all got complications. It's part of being human, right?" His voice held an understanding that disarmed some of the tension in my heart. "But I can't help you if you don't let me in." The sincerity in his tone melted the wall I had built around myself, if only for a moment. I felt that raw connection again, a tether between us strengthening with each heartbeat. My thoughts whirled like leaves caught in the wind, battling the heaviness of my family's expectations and the lightness Lucas brought into my world. As we walked through the dimly lit street, I felt compelled to take a leap, to share a piece of my truth. My family, they expect a lot from me. A certain kind of life, you know? And I've always tried to fit into that mold, even when I felt hollow. Lucas stopped, turning to face me fully. The vulnerability in his expression made me feel safe, and I continued pouring out my heart. "I don't want to let them down. But then there's you, and am terrified that choosing you means tearing apart the little stability I have left." He took a step closer, and suddenly everything else faded: the flickering streetlights, the distant laughter, the echoes of judgment. It was just us, two souls navigating the storm. "You deserve to be happy," he said, his voice low and filled with sincerity. "Whatever happiness looks like for you." My heart swelled at his words, but with that swell came the burden of confusion. How could I reconcile my desires with the life my family envisioned for me? I feared the confrontation waiting for me back home, how it would feel to explain my choices to parents who had sacrificed so much. As we resumed walking, I couldn't shake the sense that I was teetering on the edge of something monumental. Every step felt like a decision. Would I keep burying my desires, or would I honor the flicker of hope Lucas had ignited within me? We approached a small park, the moonlight filtering through the trees casting shadows that danced around us. It was serene, a stark contrast to the chaos in my heart. Lucas looked around and then back at me, an irresistible spark of mischief in his eyes. "Come on, let's make a wish on that fountain." He pointed toward a small stone structure that bubbled gently under the moonlight. The lightness in his voice pulled me from my stormy thoughts. "You're serious?" "Absolutely. It's where dreams come true, or at least, where we can pretend for a moment they do," he replied, grinning. I couldn't help but laugh, the sound bright against the night. As we approached the fountain, I felt a lift in my spirit, as if each step carried me away from my burdens, even if just momentarily. Lucas leaned over, tossing a coin into the water and whispering his wish. The glimmering ripples transformed the surface, capturing the moonlit reflection like fleeting hopes. "Your turn," he said, handing me a coin. I hesitated, my fingers curling around the cool metal. What did I truly want? Peace? Acceptance? Life unshackled by fear? The thoughts flickered through my mind. "All right," I whispered, my breath catching as I leaned closer to the fountain. I closed my eyes and let the weight of my desire gather in my chest. With a deep breath, I threw the coin in, wishing silently for the courage to choose a path that felt like me. As the coin sank into the water, I felt something shift within me, a small spark of determination igniting against the backdrop of my anxieties. But just as I turned back to Lucas, the moment slipped. My phone buzzed violently in my pocket, and the timing felt too ominous, too foreboding. I pulled it out reluctantly, dread curling in my gut. With a quick glance, the screen revealed a familiar name: me mother. "I found something out that you need to know. Please call me." The words hung heavy, like a stone plummeting into a well of my fears. My stomach dropped. What could it possibly be? A revelation that would change everything, just as I was beginning to feel something real with Lucas? "Hey," Lucas said, the warmth in his voice drawing me back. "What is it?" I swallowed hard, fighting back the tidal wave of anxiety as I looked into his eyes, those eyes that were brimming with kindness and possibility yet now seemed to amplify the weight of the message I had just received. My heart raced, battling against a decision that may shift everything I was beginning to embrace. Would I let this news add another layer of complexity to our already fragile connection? I don't know, I whispered, hiding my face as tears threatened to gather. I think I might need to take this. Before I could process the moment, I felt Lucas' fingers brush my cheek, catching an errant tear that escaped. "It'll be here," he said softly, the promise hanging in the night air between us. Just give me a moment," I murmured, hoping that calling my mother wouldn't unravel everything I had begun to weave with Lucas, but even as I stepped back, I felt a part of me slip away, caught between the fear of my reality and the burgeoning hope that had begun to bloom. The darkness was pressing in again, and I clung to the last remnants of my courage, not knowing what the next moment would bring. The air hung thick with anticipation, each breath feeling like a string pulled tight, teetering on the edge of snapping. I found a secluded corner of the park, distancing myself from Lucas' comforting presence. I needed to breathe, to collect myself amidst the chaos that was my reality. The message from my mother flickered like a neon sign in my mind, demanding attention. "I found something out that you need to know. Please call me." My heart raced as I replayed the words over and over, searching for hidden meanings, trying to anticipate the news that lay ahead. With trembling hands, I hit the call button, the screen lighting up in the darkness. The sound of ringing felt like an eternity, each chime intensifying my anxiety. Please just be okay," I whispered to myself, willing her to answer in a way that wouldn't shatter the fragile peace I had begun to find with Lucas. When my mother's voice finally broke through, it was crisp but laced with an undertone of urgency. "You answered. Thank goodness. Mom, what is it?" I asked, my voice quivering on the precipice of dread. "There's been a development regarding your application," she said, a slight tremor in her tone. "You know how we were worried about your standing? The committee reached out. They found an issue with your records that could affect your eligibility to." I felt the ground shift beneath me, the stark possibility of failure crashing like a wave against the shore of my resolve. "What issue?" I murmured, the words feeling heavy on my tongue. "Something from when you were a child, a miscommunication in your grades. It's complicated, but it's fixable if you act fast." Her voice transformed into a distant echo. "Act fast." The words looped in my mind and morphed into an insurmountable challenge. I had spent years constantly climbing, fulfilling expectations, pushing myself to achieve what we all deemed a success, only to be met with a barrier rooted in my past. "I need to look into it more," I managed to say, my voice barely a whisper. "I know. But I need you to focus. This could change everything for you, for us." She sighed, clearly exasperated. "Your father and I want what is best for you. You need to fight for this." The mention of us struck a chord deep inside. Did our vision of success not align, despite how hard I had tried to be what they wanted? Was I just another project to them, something to polish until it gleamed? I swallowed hard, refocusing on her words. "Okay, he'll do whatever it takes. But..." The hesitation slipped into my voice, and I could almost feel the tremors of dread pulsing through the line. Could you possibly call me back later?" "I need some time to think." Of course," she replied, but the confidence in her voice was a thin veil over my rising panic. "Just remember, this opportunity is rare." The call ended, and quiet wrapped around me like a cold blanket. I leaned back against the tree, the bark rough against my skin, and closed my eyes. The suffocating weight of expectations pressed hard on my chest, mingling dangerously with the burgeoning light of what I felt for Lucas. "Hey," a gentle voice broke through my haze, and I opened my eyes to find Lucas standing there, concern etched across his features. "Is everything all right?" "Not really," I admitted, the crack in my facade revealing the tempest inside me. There's something I need to take care of." "I know this is a lot to handle, but you don't have to face it alone," he said, his voice steady, offering a firm anchor amid the tumult. "Whatever it is, I'm here for you." My heart fluttered at his words, the comfort they brought temporarily blanketing the raging storm inside. "But what if I can't handle it? What if I've messed up too badly?" He stepped closer, his warmth enveloping me. "You won't know until you try. And remember, it's okay not to have all the answers right now. All you need is to move forward. I believe in you." His encouragement infused a fragile sense of hope into my heart, yet it was laced with an impending fear. What if this new revelation about my past shattered the tenuous connection we had begun to build? I longed to confide in him, to pull him into my world, but the thought of tainting our blossoming relationship with my burdens felt like an unbearable risk. Suddenly, my mind whirled back to a small moment of kindness, how he had wiped away my tears so tenderly moments ago. Could I really share my deepest fears with someone who had only known this lightness? Or would it push him away, further into the depths of uncertainty I knew too well? "Promise me you'll call me if you need anything," he said, breaking my reverie. "No matter what it is." I nodded, unsure if I would honor that promise. The truth felt too heavy, the relief of laying it bare too terrifying. Just as I began to think of how to traverse this new quagmire, my phone buzzed once more, a notification lighting up the screen. Another message from my mother. My heartbeat quickened, dread pooling heavy in my stomach. I glanced at Lucas, searching for a flicker of reassurance in his gaze. I felt drawn to him, pulled between wanting to confide and needing to shield him from my reality. "I really do need a moment," I whispered as I looked back at my phone. "I just need toes." My thumb hovered over the screen. A sudden wave of noise erupted from the Distancia, group of people spilling into the park, laughing with a vibrancy that seemed to clash with my shadowy thoughts. Amidst them, a reality check crashed over. May was standing at a crossroads, engulfed by expectations I both revered and resented. "Are you okay?" Lucas asked, inching closer, placing a hand on my shoulder, the warmth spreading into the frigid corners of my apprehensive heart. I inhaled deeply, torn between my heavy burdens and the possibility of a brighter path I might shape for myself. I was lost in the currents of confusion, and just as I was about to speak, fate reeled like a whirlwind, dragging me into an unforeseen revelation. The message blinked on my screen, and as I read it, my heart plummeted. My world pivoted yet again, revealing secrets I had never anticipated, words that had the power to fracture everything I held dear. "Your father, he isn't who you think he is." The shock was electric, coursing through my veins as I stared at the screen. The words blurred, blurring the reality I had known my entire life. What did it mean? Who was my father, really? I blinked rapidly, but the message remained stubbornly unchanged, a stark beacon illuminating the undercurrents of my existence. "Is everything all right?" Lucas' voice enveloped me, pulling me back from the precipice of confusion. How could I possibly explain this turmoil? I could feel the gulf widening between us, a chasm filled with unspoken truths. I turned the phone around to face him, my hands trembling. Part of me wanted to shove the device into his hands, to share this turmoil as a lifeline, but another part recoiled, terrified of how he might respond. His eyes scanned the message, and I held my breath, waiting for the shock to mar his expression. What does this mean?" he asked softly, pain etched in his features. "I don't know." I cried out, feeling the weight of the past resurface like a haunting specter. "I don't understand. How can it be possible? My father has always been my father. What does 'he isn't who you think he is' even imply? Is he not my biological father? Why hasn't anyone told me?" The weight of the uncertainties hung heavy, and I felt the tears well in my eyes, like a flood threatening to burst free. Vulnerability overwhelmed me as I shifted between anger and fear, my emotional state transforming into a storm with every heartbeat. Lucas stepped closer, his hands cupping my face, grounding me. "Hey, breathe. You don't need to think about all of this at once," he murmured, his voice a soothing balm. "Breathe? How can I breathe when everything I thought I knew is unraveling?" I felt the fissures of my carefully constructed life threatening to collapse around me. "It's like the ground is falling from beneath me, and I didn't even know it was loose." He nodded, his gaze steady and unwavering. "Then let's take it one step at a time. What do you want to do? Call your mother? Find out what she meant?" For a fleeting moment, the idea of picking up the phone again felt unbearable. I wanted to reach out, to confront this hidden truth, but what if it only led to more pain? I'd crafted a safe place with Lucas, and now it felt like my own life was marching towards an inevitable upheaval. Guilt washed over me. I turned my face away, ashamed for dragging someone so pure, so light into my shadows. "I don't want to burden you with this, Lucas. You deserve so much better than a tangled web of lies." His expression softened, and he brushed away a tear that had slipped down my cheek. "You're not a burden. I want to be here for you, all of you. Including the messy parts that make you who you are. I care about you." A flicker of warmth ignited within me, but it felt so far away, surrounded by the icy grip of uncertainty. I swallowed hard, torn by the choice between pulling him closer and shutting him out. Just as the war raged within me, a flash of movement caught my eye from the edges of the park. An older woman, her hair silver like spun moonlight, sat alone on a bench, hands clasped tightly in her lap. She had seemed lost in thought, but now her gaze was anchored firmly on us. The warmth of her smile reached out from across the park, an unfamiliar combination of kindness and knowing. Sometimes our past shape us in unexpected ways, she called out, her voice a gentle breeze. And revealing truths, however painful, can lead us to new beginnings. Her words resonated in the silence between me and Lucas, each syllable a crisp reminder of the depth of emotion that surrounded us. I looked back at him, the turmoil swirling within my chest meeting the quiet strength in his eyes. What if she's right? He whispered, just above a breath. His words sparked a thought, a small glimmer of hope amid the dark clouds suffocating me. What if confronting this revelation could lead to something more profound, something I could not yet envision? What if unveiling the hidden layers of my family history could unlock pieces of my own identity I had yet to discover? But as I glanced back at that mysterious woman, the flicker of genuine understanding mirrored in her eyes, a sudden unease gripped me. My phone buzzed again, vibrating insistently against the wooden bench. It was another notification, the weight of it foreboding in the thickening air. Not again, I whispered, dread washing over me as I stared at the screen. My heart raced as I opened the message, meet me tomorrow. I have more to tell you about your father. You need to know. It's urgent. An icy knot formed in my stomach. I felt like a marionette on strings I could no longer see, pulled toward a destiny I wished to deny. Tomorrow loomed like a specter itself, waiting to trump my reality with new revelations, and as I shared a helpless look with Lucas, I knew nothing would ever be the same again. The morning light filtered through my bedroom window, casting slants of brightness that felt painfully optimistic against the chaos in my mind. I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, the message from the night before echoing ominously in my thoughts. Meet me tomorrow. I have more to tell you about your father. The urgency felt suffocating, a weight pressing on my chest, and yet the uncertainty of what tomorrow would bring was equally daunting. I turned toward the digital clock on my bedside table. Each tick felt louder, a reminder that time was slipping away. I could almost hear it whispering, "You can't run from this." After what felt like an eternity of procrastination, I finally pushed the covers aside and swung my legs over the edge of the bed, feeling the chill of the wooden floor beneath my feet. With the clock ticking away my apprehension, I reluctantly made my way to the bathroom to splash cold water on my face. The reflection staring back at me was someone I barely recognized, eyes puffy from lack of sleep, face drained of color. I wondered how I could ever find the strength to face whatever awaited me. As I prepared for the day, my phone chirped insistently, and my heart raced at the thought of another message. I hesitated before answering, half expecting the voice from my past to beckon me again. Instead, it was a text from Lucas. Hey. Thinking of you today. Do you want company before you go? Just the thought of him made my heart flutter. I could picture the way his eyes brightened when he smiled, the warmth radiating from him like sunlight piercing through clouds. Yes, I wanted him beside me, as if his presence could shield me from the unfolding storm. Definitely. Could use some support, I typed back, my fingers trembling slightly as I pressed send. He was at my door within the hour, multifaceted as the sun, transforming an otherwise dreary morning into something altogether vibrant. Just the sight of him filled me with a sense of calm I hadn't felt all day. We headed out for coffee, a simple routine that became an anchor amid the tempest brewing inside me. Sitting across from him at our favorite cafe, I searched for the courage to share the past few tumultuous days. But each time I opened my mouth, the weight of all my unsaid words made it hard to breathe. Before long, Lucas reached across the table, his fingers brushing mine with encouragement. You know you can talk to me about anything, right? He said, his voice gentle but persistent, like a hand coaxing a hesitant bud to bloom. Everything just feels so complicated, I finally admitted, finally surrendering to the truth swirling within me. I don't even know where to start. Start with what scares you the most, he suggested, his brow furrowing as he leaned closer. What's troubling you about your father? It was a simple question, yet it felt like a key unlocking an invisible door. I took a deep breath, summoning the courage to share my deepest fears. What if he isn't the man I thought he was? Lucas didn't hesitate. but that doesn't change who you are. You're still you. No matter who he is, the certainty in his voice sent a ripple of warmth through me. I felt the smallest thread of hope weave itself into my heart, but it was quickly followed by a shroud of doubt. Would the truth be too much to bear? Sometimes, I wonder if I really want to know, I confessed, my eyes downcast. The past is so heavy sometimes it's not about the weight of what happened, but how you carry it and what you do moving forward, Lucas replied, squeezing my hand tighter. Just then, an older man approached our table, his weary face stitched with age as he leaned on a cane. He looked at us strangely but with an understanding that caught my attention. Sorry to interrupt, but I couldn't help but overhear. You two seem to be going through something tough. I lost my father years ago and learned that confronting the past, no matter how painful, can be the first step toward freedom. Don't shy away from finding your truth. His voice was warm, resonating with a kind of wisdom that felt almost divine in that moment. There was something enlightening in his vulnerability, reminding me that life carried much heavier burdens for many. Thank you, I managed to say, moved by his sincerity. It just feels daunting. Life can be daunting, but remember, light finds a way through the darkness. You'll be okay, he said with a kind smile, before moving along to another table. Our encounters with strangers seemed steeped in a gravity that felt odd yet comforting. I turned back to Lucas, who had watched the entire interaction intently. What if he's right? I murmured, a glimmer of courage lighting up in the most unexpected manner. We can do this together, Lucas reassured me, his gaze unwavering. I'll be there with you tomorrow. No matter what you find out, you're not alone in this. In that tender moment, with promise hanging between us like a delicate thread of anticipation, I felt a profound love welling up, juxtaposed against the gnawing fear of the unknown. What if tomorrow held the answers I desperately needed? What if it shattered everything I held dear? As the time ticked closer to our scheduled meeting, a rush of anxiety unfurled in my chest. My phone buzzed again, and at the sight of yet another notification, my heart plummeted. Another message. Before you find out more, be careful of what you uncover. Not everything is meant to be known. That sentence echoed ominously in my mind, leaving me with a fresh wave of dread. I glanced up at Lucas, who was oblivious to the dark shadow creeping back into my thoughts. The mixture of love and fear washed over me like a tide, but there was no turning back now. Tomorrow, I whispered, though it felt more like surrender than a statement of resolve. How do you face a truth that could redefine everything? The answer eluded me as I stared out of the cafe's window, pondering a future suspended on the edge of a single revelation. The minutes bled into each other as the cafe's ambience buzzed around us, seemingly untouched by the storm raging in my mind. The warmth radiating from Lucas felt like a small sun, briefly pushing away the shadows of my doubts. Yet, with every tick of the clock, the reality of tomorrow loomed larger, an invisible monster lurking just beyond my reach. We finished our coffees, the empty cups a stark reminder that I would soon have to face the unknown. Lucas suggested we take a walk, and I nodded absently, needing the distraction. I found myself letting him guide me through the winding streets, the crisp air refreshing yet laden with anticipation. Each step felt monumental, as if I were walking toward a precipice. I've been thinking, Lucas began, his demeanor shifting slightly as he assessed my mood. Why don't we take a detour? There's a little park not far from here. I know a spot where we can sit by the water. It might help clear your head. That peaceful oasis amidst the impending catastrophe sounded heavenly. Nodding along without vocalizing my gratitude, I followed him, feeling a blend of hope and dread swirl within me. The park was a hidden gem, a small patch of serenity tucked between the towering buildings. The water glimmered under the late morning sun, and the laughter of children echoed from a nearby playground. As we settled on a bench, I took a deep breath, inhaling the sweet scent of blooming flowers, a stark contrast to the mess of emotions swirling inside me. I wish I could just pretend tomorrow wasn't happening, I finally confessed, my voice barely above a whisper. Lucas turned to me, his gaze penetrating. But pretending won't change anything. You said it yourself, the past feels heavy. You can't carry it forever. With deliberation, I pulled a small piece of paper from my jacket pocket, crumpled and worn from countless fiddles. It was the note with the meeting details, a simple trigger that ignited an avalanche of feelings. The emotions grappling with me were like tangled strings, each one frayed and knotted. Look, I said, as I laid the note flat against my palm. What if I find out something terrible? Something that threatens my memories of him. I don't want the love I've held onto to shatter. He took the note from my hand, gently smoothing it out. You're not destroying memories, just uncovering truth, he said softly. It's okay to be scared. But remember that whatever you find, you're stronger than you think. Suddenly, my phone buzzed again, and I felt my stomach drop. Pick it up, Lucas urged, seeing my hesitation. I took a deep breath, and with trembling fingers, I opened a new message. My heart raced as I read the words aloud. I hope you're taking this seriously. Some secrets are meant to stay buried. Trust me. My pulse quickened. The cryptic message felt ominous, like a recurring nightmare I couldn't shake. I looked up at Lucas, my heart in my throat. What does that even mean? Who is sending this? What do they know? Maybe it's just someone trying to scare you, he replied, but his brow furrowed. Have you considered responding? Find out who it is? I shook my head, panic rising within me. I can't. I don't want to know what they know if it's worse than I imagine. What if that person is trying to protect me? What if there's something so terrible about my father that it's better left unknown? For a moment, silence stretched between us, the weight of my revelation hanging heavily in the air. I felt the cool breeze ripple through my hair, brushing against the fortification I was trying to build. Then Lucas spoke, his voice steady yet infused with a subtle urgency. What if it's the opposite? What if it's something you need to confront? You can't live in fear of the unknown forever. His words ignited a restless spirit inside me, a longing for clarity amidst the chaos. But before I could respond, a familiar figure emerged from behind a cluster of trees. My breath hitched in my throat. It was my mother. What is she doing here? I whispered, my heart racing as uncertainty gripped me. Lucas squeezed my hand reassuringly, but I could feel my pulse quicken. My mother rarely ventured into town unless there was something important to discuss. Her eyes widened as she spotted me, and she hurried over, her expression intent. Sweetheart, I knew I would find you here, she said breathlessly. We need to talk. Now. Panic clawed at my throat. About what? Before she could respond, I saw the flicker of regret flash across her face, and an inexplicable dread settled deep in my stomach. I looked at Lucas, who was frowning, sensing the tension in my voice. What now? What had my mother come to say? In that moment, the world around us fell away. The park, the water, the laughter all drowned beneath the roaring tide of uncertainty. As she opened her mouth to speak, I felt every hair on my body stand on end. There was a revelation coming, one that could twist everything I thought I knew about my life into even darker shapes. The air was thick with anticipation, and all I could do was brace myself for whatever torrent of truth was about to unfold. My mother took a deep breath, her lips parting as if to release a flood of words she had buried deep inside her. I felt Lucas' hand tighten around mine, a silent promise of support amid the gathering storm. If there are things about your father that you don't know, she began, her voice cracking under the weight of unspoken truths. Things I've tried to protect you from. Instinctively, I recoiled, my heart racing as I thought of all the questions I had buried within me, all the fears that had lingered like shadows waiting to pounce. What kind of things, Mom? Why didn't you tell me before? She glanced around, the park suddenly feeling too quiet, as if the trees themselves were listening. This isn't the place for it, she whispered urgently. Can we go somewhere private? No. I could hardly contain my voice, the panic surging through me. I need to know now. I can't just please. Her eyes glistened with unshed tears, and it struck me how fragile she seemed in that moment, the woman who had always portrayed strength. I don't want to press your heart right now, but I won't keep it from you any longer. You deserve the truth. I felt Lucas shift slightly next to me, an anchor amidst the storm. The fear of what was to come loomed larger than the sun above us, but there was also an unexpected kindness in Lucas' expression that gave me courage. Encouraged by his presence, I nodded stiffly, prompting Mom to continue. Your father, she hesitated, her gaze flickering to the water's surface, then back to me. He wasn't who you think he was. He was involved in things, dangerous things. And it's why we moved here, why I kept you away from certain people and places. The tension in the air thickened, and I struggled to process her words. What do you mean? What kind of things? Illegal activities, she murmured. He had debts, connections to people you shouldn't be associating with. I thought I could protect you from that life if I just kept you away, if I created a bubble around you. My chest tightened painfully. Everything I had known, the image I held onto it, felt like it was crumbling in front of me. You didn't trust me enough to tell me? To help me understand, trust isn't simple, sweetheart, she said, her voice trembling. I thought I was doing the right thing. I thought if I shielded you, you'd have a chance at a normal life, free from the burden of your father's choices. But it seems all I've done is make things worse. As her confession sank in, regret washed over me. The memories of my father felt tainted, steeped in half-truths and deceit. And the meeting tomorrow? Is it related to this? Is that who we'll meet? Her silence was deafening, 1,000 words left unspoken. A shiver raced through me, and an icy doubt settled deep in my bones. Mom, please. I need you to be honest about this. With tears streaming down her cheeks, she finally whispered, yes. It's related. You might learn things that can put you in danger, things you don't want to know. I can't stand to see you hurt. The fear in her eyes mirrored my own. Suddenly, my phone buzzed again. Another message. Unshaken by my heartbeat thrumming wildly, I fumbled to read it, the text chilling me to the bone. You're getting too close to the truth. Step back while you still can. I exchanged a glance with Lucas, horror settling in my chest, then back to my mother, who now looked terrified behind her calm facade. You knew this would happen. I didn't know it would happen now, I swear, she said in a rush. I thought we had more time to prepare you. I didn't want you to have to face this. I wanted to give you a fighting chance. A fighting chance? I echoed, my voice shaking. Was living in the dark my entire life a fighting chance? You thought hiding the truth from me would protect me? It only makes it worse. Lucas watched this unraveling, but the empathy in his gaze grounded me in my own spiraling thoughts. I turned to him, searching his eyes for reassurance. What should I do? He stepped closer, his voice low and steady as he said, you need to decide whether to confront the past or let it continue haunting you. Either way, you're not alone in it. After a moment, my mother's voice trembled as she continued, what your father was involved in is dangerous, and it's not far from you. Those people, they will do anything to protect their interests. I thought he was free of that life, that he had turned a new leaf, but I was naive to think it would leave us alone. My breath hitched at the weight of her words, dread pooling in my belly. What are you saying? Just spill it. Through trembling lips, she finally uttered, you still don't know everything about why we moved away, do you? It wasn't just to start over. My heart plummeted as realization dawned upon me. What did you do? It put you in danger if they found out who we were. If they think you're trying to uncover the truth. She paused, her voice a whisper, they won't just let you walk away. Time stopped, the implications of her revelation sank deeper, and my mind raced with the shadows chasing me. I stood, grappling with the need to know while being paralyzed by fear. As I looked at Lucas, I felt a flicker of determination behind my dread, but before I could gather my thoughts, the ground beneath us trembled with the heavy footsteps of something much larger than our worlds. A figure emerged from the park entrance, big and ominous, him moving through the throngs of children playing like nothing could touch him. Trust me, he called to me, the chilling familiarity of his voice slicing through the haze of uncertainty threatening to consume me. You're not ready for the truth, but you can't run from it. Every instinct screamed to flee, yet I felt rooted to the ground as my world spiraled, realization stemming from my mother's words hitting me like a wave. In that gut-wrenching moment, I understood I'd crossed a point of no return, and there was no escaping the life my father had woven into the fabric of my existence. The chase was on, and I was just beginning to understand the game. The figure loomed closer, the shadows from the trees spilling over him like a cloak. My heart pounded, a frantic drum echoing in my ears as my breath quickened. Was this the man my mother had feared? The one who might reveal the tangled web of my father's past? Who are you? I managed to choke out, knowing I should run but unable to tear my gaze away from him. Lucas's grip on my hand tightened, sending a surge of warmth through my trembling body, but the chill in the air refused to relent. I'm someone who knows more than you realize, he replied, his voice smooth yet unnerving. There's a lot at stake for you, more than your mother has let on. The weight of those words hung heavy like the thickening clouds above. My mother stepped forward, her fear palpable as she tried to shield me. Stay away from her. You have no right to involve her in this. But the man continued, undeterred. You've already been involved the moment your father breathed life into this mess. The truth is as much yours as it was his, whether you like it or not. Caught between fear and insatiable curiosity, I felt the world around me fade, the laughter of children at play, the rustling of leaves, all of it dulled against the thundering silence in my mind. My life had been merely a backdrop until this moment, and now everything I had taken comfort in blurred into a chaotic swirl. Enough! I shouted, surprising even myself with the strength of the words spilling out. I don't even know who you are. What do you want from me? The man smiled faintly, like he was entertained by my confusion. To help you, of course. You might be surprised what knowledge can do. The truth could empower you, but only if you choose to face it. I wanted nothing more than to turn away, to ignore him and escape back into the safety of my ignorance. But the fleeting trust one carried in Lucas urged me to engage, to dig deeper. Why should I trust you? The figure leaned forward. Because no one else can offer you what you need, and believe me when I say it's going to get much worse before it gets better. My mother's sharp intake of breath weighed heavily in the space between us. She was scared, I could see it in her eyes, but part of me was too. What else did I not know? Who sent you? I pressed, desperate to peel away layers of mystery, though wariness knotted my resolve. Someone from my past? Did my father have connections still, people lurking in the shadows? More questions piled on top of each other, but I couldn't find an answer among them. Trust me when I say that understanding who you are and what you're up against is the only way forward. I can't help you if you're too afraid to listen, he replied softly, his voice threading through my anxiety like the remnants of a soothing lullaby. I turned to my mother, a question hanging between us. The look on her face was stricken with worry, but her lips barely curled as she searched for the right words. What do we do? I could barely manage a whisper. Do you want to know? She asked, meeting my eyes with both apprehension and a flicker of hope. Do you want to see what happens when you peel back those layers? With a heavy heart, I shifted my gaze back to the man, the reality of our situation sharper than any blade I had encountered. What do you know, more than you can imagine? He took a step forward, his posture shifting from threat to vulnerability in an instant. There was a kindness there, a strange contrast to the darkness that surrounded his message. But you must choose to take that step into the unknown. I can't hold your hand. The rawness of his words hit me with the force of a tidal wave. In that moment, I felt the truth washing over me like a capricious tide, revealing submerged fears and uncertainties. Would I really confront the legacy of a man I barely understood? With trembling determination, I nodded, the flicker of courage igniting a flame inside me. I want to know. Behind me, I felt Lucas' presence solidify, a shield of understanding and support urging me on. But as I took a step towards the figure, a sudden realization gripped me. Wait. I halted both. Physically and mentally, a dread coiling in my stomach. If I do this, what happens next? The smile faded from the man's face, replaced instead by a somber seriousness. You will come face to face with not just your father's past, but also your own. And it may cost you more than you're willing to pay. In that moment, right before I could respond, my phone buzzed fiercely in my pocket, breaking the delicate tension that enveloped us. I pulled it out, heart racing yet again. The screen flickered to life with a single, alarming notification: I warned you not to dig. Consequences follow those who don't listen. The air around us thickened, and for the first time since this nightmare began, I felt a creeping dread snake its way into my heart. I looked up at the man, realizing with stark clarity that the answers I sought could lead me into the jaws of danger. The campfire flickered, flames dancing like specters around us, and I couldn't shake the feeling that something simian was watching. But for the first time, I was ready to confront whatever lay ahead, even if it meant risking every fiber of my being. With that spark of fear and determination swelling inside me, I resolved to seek out the truth. I didn't know what the next step would bring, but I was ready to walk into the unknown. And as I took that first step, I could feel the ground shift beneath me, ready for an uncertain, tumultuous journey. The sun struggled to break through the heavy clouds as I approached the meeting spot we had chosen. My legs felt like lead, each step dragging me closer to an impending storm. But I had crossed a threshold, there was no turning back now. I bore the weight of my family's secrets like armor against the world. Today would unravel the first thread, and I prayed I wouldn't be left in ruins. With every tick of the clock, I wrestled with my thoughts, battling the fears that clawed at my insides. Lucas stood beside me, solid and steadfast, like a lighthouse shining through the heavy fog of uncertainty. He didn't question my motives or press for details, he simply supported me with his presence, a quiet strength that both comforted and bolstered my resolve. As we neared the edge of the park, the figure from yesterday awaited us, shadowy and imposing, with the weight of unanswered questions looming in the air. His expression remained inscrutable, but I had a feeling this would be a day etched into my memory forever. "Are you ready?" he asked, a hint of concern in his tone. It felt almost ironic, was the one with the secrets, yet somehow, I was the one who needed to be ready. I took a deep breath, glancing at Lucas, who nodded encouragingly. "I am," I replied more confidently than I felt. "Let's do this." As we settled at a nearby bench, the man took a seat across from us, his demeanor shifting from vague danger to an unsettling openness. "You're about to delve into a world that's both perilous and pivotal to understanding who you are. Are you sure you want to go through with this?" The gravity of his question hung in the air, threading through the tension that enveloped us. "More than anything," I said, my voice unwavering. "I need to know." With that, he leaned forward, arms resting on his knees, eyes piercing into mine. "Your father was involved with people whose influence runs deep. They're dangerous and don't appreciate loose ends. By seeking out his past, you're inviting scrutiny, and I can't protect you from the fallout." A chill danced along my spine as I absorbed his words. The stakes were far higher than I had anticipated, but I couldn't falter. "What exactly was he involved in?" Slowly, he began unveiling truths I had never imagined. He was a part of an underground network financing, smuggling, and other illegal dealings. When he decided to leave that life, he thought cutting ties with those influences would keep you safe. But secrets, my dear, don't work that way. They fester, waiting for the right moment to reveal themselves. As he spoke, I could feel my reality splintering. "But my mother, she never told me any of this. She said she was protecting me." Sometimes, ignorance is seen as protection, but it often leaves scars that run deeper than knowledge can heal. His words sliced through my perception of the life I had lived. "If you confront your father's past, you may uncover far more about his choices than you bargained for. It could lead to revelations about yourself." I shifted uncomfortably, the implication sinking in. How much of my identity had been shaped by his actions? "So, what happens to me now? What do I need to be aware of?" He unfolded a piece of paper, revealing it with ominous significance. "This is where it begins. Names, connections, and potential dangers. You need to understand that the moment you seek the truth, you become a part of this chaotic web." I took the paper, the weight of my destiny resting heavily in my hands. This document held the potential for both liberation and peril. My heart raced as I felt the tendrils of fear tightening around my throat. "But what if I don't want any part of this? I could walk away right now." "The truth has a way of pulling you in, whether you wish to be involved or not." His gaze flickered, a subtle understanding passing between us. "Once you've seen it, there's no unseeing." I exchanged a glance with Lucas, seeking reassurance in his presence. He leaned in slightly, his expression fierce with determination. "You have the right to know." My heart swelled at his unwavering belief in me. "If not now, when?" The man nodded. "Respecting the weight of the moment." "Then continue down this path, but be mindful those secrets could threaten your existence. You need to be prepared for anything." Steeling myself, I unfolded the paper further and scanned the names, let them etch into my consciousness. My world began to roar in my ears, each name a reminder that this was not just about my father, it was about my choices, my identity, my future. "Why did you come to me?" I asked, my voice steady. "What do you gain from sharing this with me?" "I have my own reasons," he said, his voice softer now. "But above all, I believe even in darkness, there exists the possibility of reclamation. You can rewrite your narrative." An unexpected warmth filled me. I could reclaim my narrative. I could transform the legacy my father left into one of strength, resilience, and honesty. And with that thought, I envisioned the life ahead not just as a consequence of choices made long before I breathed my first breath but as a hopeful projection of who I could become despite it all, and then I felt Ida weightlifting. "Thank you," I said, glancing from the paper, back to him and finally to Lucas, who wore an expression of proud amazement. "Thank you for giving me this chance." He nodded, a hint of a smile playing on his lips. "But remember, bravery isn't the absence of fear, it's recognizing it and moving forward despite it." The world felt different as I left that park, the possibilities unfolding like petals under bright sunlight. I felt a rush of adrenaline mingling with freedom, each heartbeat echoed the mantra of resilience. Today marked the first step into reclaiming my truth. As we walked into the fading light of an uncertain afternoon, I turned to Lucas, my voice trembling with hope. "I want to face this together. Will you stand with me, always?" he replied, squeezing my hand tightly as if solidifying the promise of support. And in that moment, I was certain of one thing: love could breathe color into the darkest places, and together, we would weather whatever storm lay ahead. And as the tendrils of dusk wrapped around us, my heart whispered a new truth: this is just the beginning.